Told you you could shape the story of To Be Hero X Season 2. Right now, Bilibili is running a live popularity poll, and the top 10 heroes gain real power based on trust points. Points you control. Complete daily missions in the app to boost your
Only one day after his death, Albert Einstein's son learned that his father's body had not been intact when it was sent off for cremation. And very shortly after, the front page of the New York Times read, "The brain that worked out the theory of relativity and made possible the development of nuclear fission had been removed for scientific study." As it turns out, the man who conducted Einstein's autopsy, Dr. Thomas Harvey, had big career ambitions, and he believed that he could make a name for himself by revealing the secrets of genius that were hidden inside Einstein's brain. Hans Albert, Einstein's son, was furious that his father's brain had been taken without permission, but Dr. Harvey eventually convinced him that his father would be happy for scientists to use his body for research. 25 years later, a young reporter went to interview Dr. Harvey about what had really happened to Einstein's brain, since he never published an official report. And it turns out, while he hadn't come up with anything, he still had Einstein's brain inside of a beer cooler, which was eventually transferred to the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia. Only one
I don't know much about Roblox, but this game called Grow a Garden has been blowing up. It just surpassed Fortnite in active users, which is kind of mind-blowing, and it made me really curious who owns this game. So I found the dude's Instagram, and his most recent post is an image from his wedding with a really meaningful paragraph, but that did not keep anyone from holding back in the comments. I know you have a wife and everything, but can you add naming pets? Bring Celestial back, bro. Please cotton candy seed for me. Please give me 10 candy blossoms and 10 moon blossom and 10 cherry blossom. Jandal, can I get $5? It makes it 10 times funnier that I have no idea what these things people are asking for are, since I've never played the game. But yeah, imagine posting about the most important day of your life, and then the top comment is, "Please cotton candy seed for me." No congratulations or anything.
Fun fact, employers are preparing for another round of the GTA flu, where millions of Americans will take days off or use sick days so they can stay home and play the game. And it's estimated GTA 6's release could cost the US economy over $1 billion in lost productivity. This isn't anything new though. It really began with the Phantom Menace in 1999, when over 2 million Americans called into work sick so they could wait in line to watch the film's premiere, also known as the Star Wars sickness. And since then, the sickness has been repeated multiple times. When Halo 3 was released in 2007, so many people took sick days, it was known as the Halo holiday. And when GTA 5 was released in 2013, millions of people took days off to play the game. Video game developers caught on to this, which is why Red Dead Redemption 2 and every Call of Duty after Advanced Warfare was released on a Friday to soften the blow to the global economy. But GTA 6 will be released on a Tuesday, and if historical trends hold true, it could cost the US economy over $1 billion in lost productivity.
In 1955, the Soviets held a military aviation parade in Moscow. During the parade, they displayed their newly produced state-of-the-art long-range bomber, the Mesishev M4 Bison, which was said to be capable of reaching the United States. However, due to budget cuts, the Soviets had only managed to produce a small number of these aircraft, but they simply kept flying the same planes in circles over the airfield to make it look like they had dozens. CIA informants reported that the US had a major disadvantage in long-range bombers, while the Soviets supposedly had over 600 of them. In response, the US began investing billions into the B-52 Stratofortress program, which resulted in a massive fleet of American bombers. Later, it turned out the CIA had underestimated just how broke the Soviets really were. They only had 28 of those bombers, and they couldn't even reach American territory. One last thing, the current B-52 Stratofortress fleet of the US Air Force still mostly consists of planes built as a result of that Cold War overestimation.
Have fun.
The Hercules Pillars, a true test of human strength. The Hercules Pillars challenge is brutal. 2 massive pillars pull away from your body with all their force, and it's a game of pure strength. Even the world's strongest bodybuilders have tapped out in just a few seconds. For 4 straight years, the world record belonged to Mark Felix, who held the pillars for 1 minute and 32 seconds. But then came November 2024, and with it came a challenger from India, Vispi Karate. Vispi has been obsessed with building his strength since childhood. He already holds 16 Guinness World Records, but now he wanted to break one of the toughest strength records in history. The timer started, and time felt like it slowed down. By the 1 minute mark, his entire body was shaking, but he didn't let go. If you subscribe this channel, you got a good news today. He crossed 1 minute 32 seconds, and he was still holding strong. Everyone was watching. How much further could he go? And when Vispi finally released the pillars, the clock read 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Unbelievable.
Why does the name Richard shorten to
that. So it's medieval England, 1100s. And everyone's got super long fancy names like this guy.
Oh, greetings, Richard Bartholomew Wimplewaster Grundlefoot here.
Dude, Richard, we'll call you Rick.
What about Bartholomew Wimplewaster?
Rick.
To make things worse for poor Rick, people back then love rhyming nicknames. Like William to Will, then Bill. Robert becomes Rob, then Bob. And unfortunately, Richard becomes Rick and...
Dick!
But this doesn't mean what we think yet. It's a totally normal, everyday guy name until 200 years later. There were so many Dicks in the world, people would say like every Tom, Dick, and Harry. It starts to just mean guy, and once Dick meant guy, well, it was only a matter of time before we attached it to the male appendage. Follow.
I'm 43.
How old do you think I am?
I would say 57.
You're only off by 20 years. I'm 77.
Get out of here! No!
Get to YouTube. I'll show you.
Guys, they just captured the 9th guy out of all 10 of them who escaped the jail. If you don't remember, around a month and a half ago, there was a massive jailbreak, like one of the biggest we've seen in a long time, out of the New Orleans jail. And they escaped by ripping this toilet out of the wall and then wrote "too easy, LOL," but most of them got captured pretty much right after. Except for these 2 guys who were on the run for over a month, and one of them finally got caught. I'm not gonna lie, I would have expected this guy to get caught first, considering how noticeable his face is. Anyways, the last man standing is this guy, Derek Groves, and if he's smart, he's a transgender woman working as a cashier in Puerto Rico by now. Guys, they just captured...
So don't leave.
Fun fact, Squid Games was so popular in South Korea that one of the country's largest internet providers sued Netflix because they had to spend so much money upgrading and maintaining their systems to keep up with the extra traffic. They felt they should be compensated. When Squid Games was released in 2021, it was a global phenomenon and a massive hit in South Korea, and SK Broadband wasn't ready for it. They claimed traffic on their network increased by over 2,000%, which resulted in them having to invest $23 million into their network. So SK Broadband took Netflix to court to try and recover some of the money they had invested. Netflix argued back, saying their duty ended with creating the content and putting it on the internet, and it's SK Broadband's job to get it to their customers who pay them for their internet connection. After 3 years of battling, they settled out of court by creating a strategic partnership to provide customers with a better entertainment experience.
This man might be the most savage but funniest game developer alive. His name is Katsushiro Harada, and he's known not just as the director of Tekken, but the developer who competes in his own game tournaments and says this to his fans.
Bring back Lydia for Tekken 8.
Don't ask me horse shit.
But for you to understand, we really need to go back to his greatest troll in 2014. See, Tekken 7 just released a trailer for a J-pop inspired character called Lucky Chloe, and fans responded with a bunch of hate, saying that it doesn't make sense for a cosplaying e-girl to be beating up a bunch of muscular martial artists. So Harada came up with a plan. He went to Twitter and said that he'll remove Lucky Chloe from the US version of the game and giving the Americans a muscular skinhead character instead. And the haters laughed about it until he doubled down and said on another tweet that the character is an East Asia and European exclusive now, and the news went viral. So the previous haters immediately started to panic, begging the Tekken developers to add Lucky Chloe to the US version of the game. And that's exactly what they did, and everybody was happy. This man might be the most...
Peter's life is so miserable that even when he once tried complaining...
Have you ever...
So this guy was competing in an Olympics elimination match when he suddenly heard tons of people yelling. You see, since everyone seemed to be pointing at something, Bobby Pierce just turned around and was surprised to see a family of ducks swimming directly in his path. Since Bobby had been in first at the time, everyone was worried that he would just run these ducks over. But although he easily could have since he needed this win, that's when people were shocked to see Bobby just completely stop to wait for these ducks to cross the river. Although he could have simply gone around them, he just leaned on his oars and patiently watched them slowly swim along. Even when his powerful French opponent, who would go on to win 9 national titles, just completely ignored these ducks and rode right past them to take the lead, Bobby still didn't move. So by the time these ducks had finally crossed, his opponent had already gotten a massive 5-length lead on him. But although people thought he was crazy for risking his first Olympics ever, Bobby somehow actually managed to catch up to his opponent in the very last stretch and even ended up beating him by 30 seconds. What was even crazier though was that Bobby not only went on to win gold for the entire event, setting a new world record time in the process, he also somehow went on to never lose a single race in his entire 20-year career.
Why does Tony have to double tap to use his suit? Black Panther and Spider-Man also have nanotech suits, but they don't need to tap on it to activate. They can do it with their mind. So why does Tony have to do this? You would think it's because of technology, but this isn't true since Peter's suit was made by Tony. And in this fight scene, he can create weapons just by thinking. This means Tony left that feature out on purpose. If we go back to Iron Man 3, Tony had a nightmare while sleeping with Pepper, and his Mark 42 activated automatically and tried to harm her.
I must have called my sleep.
So we had to put a double tap feature in his nanotech suit to prevent this from happening again because Tony always learns from his mistakes. Why does Tony have to double tap